Back in the early 2000s, everyone wanted a crossover. They promised the best of both worlds: SUV confidence with the comfort of a sedan, and families fell in love instantly. They were practical, stylish, and finally made family cars feel a little less boring. But that love story didn't always end happily. Because while magazines were calling them the future of driving, real owners were stuck on the side of the road. The same Ford that won early safety awards was also racking up transmission failures. The Buick even sold well its first few years, right up until owners realized the cooling systems were leaking internally and wrecking their engines. And yet, a few of them did everything right. They became legends of reliability, still running strong decades later, while others are long forgotten. So, which ones were worth the hype, and which ones should have been left in the dealership lot? Well, let's count down the 5 worst and 5 best old crossovers from the 2000s. Starting with the 5 worst. Number 5. Pontiac Aztek. Meet the Pontiac Aztek, the car that became a legend for all the wrong reasons. On paper, it sounded like the ultimate adventure machine. Removable center console, built-in cooler, and even an optional camping tent that turned the rear into a tiny RV. It was unusual, clever, and years ahead of its time in concept. But then reality hit. The 3.4-liter V6 engine was a mechanical nightmare, with head gasket and intake manifold failures so frequent they felt like part of the maintenance schedule. Power steering pumps gave out regularly, and the ignition switch could trap your key and drain your battery. Add to that rust-prone rocker panels and a crash test rating labeled only marginal, and you had a crossover that was as fragile as it was strange-looking. Sure, you can pick one up today for about $1,500, but what about keeping it running? Well, that's the real adventure and not the fun kind Pontiac intended. Number 4. Buick Rendezvous. And if the Pontiac Aztek was the ugly duckling of GM's crossover lineup, the Buick Rendezvous was its slightly more refined twin. Awkward, yes, but pretending to be classy. Underneath the better clothes, it shared the same bones and the same headaches. The transmission was a ticking time bomb. Owners complained about gears sticking, rough shifts, and mysterious stalls. The intake manifold gasket had a bad habit of leaking coolant into the oil, while the power steering hoses loved to burst from constant vibrations. Fuel pump failures and dead speedometers became just part of the experience. And then there was the water leak problem. Moisture sneaking into the cabin, shorting out wiring, and leaving owners stranded with no-start nightmares. Despite its cushy interior and Buick badge, the Rendezvous quickly showed its true colors, a rust-prone, repair-hungry clone of the Aztek. It was GM's attempt to fix a disaster by creating another one. Number 3. Jeep Liberty. The Jeep Liberty looked powerful enough to climb mountains, but half the time, it couldn't even keep its windows up. Beneath its off-road look was one of the strangest issues in crossover history: endlessly breaking power window regulators. The cheap plastic brackets inside the doors would snap without warning, leaving your window stuck down or dropping mid-drive, sometimes right as it started raining. Fix it once, and you'd likely be back at the shop in months. Beyond that, the Liberty had its good points: a capable 4-wheel drive system, solid ground clearance, and a proper Jeep stance. But constant electrical issues and mechanical failures drained the fun from ownership. Chrysler's patchwork fixes didn't help either. Parts varied year to year, so even mechanics never knew what surprise awaited inside the doors. It wasn't the worst SUV mechanically, but as far as annoyance goes, the Liberty took home the trophy. Number 2. Chevrolet Equinox. Moving on, the first-gen Chevrolet Equinox was GM's big leap into the crossover market, but it landed face first. At first glance, it looked like a winner. Sharp lines, family-friendly space, and modern appeal. But under the hood sat the infamous 3.4-liter V6, a true nightmare machine. Head gasket failures were practically standard equipment, often showing up before 60,000 miles. Coolant leaked into the engine, producing white smoke and that dreaded milkshake oil, a sure sign of contamination. Even after costly repairs, overheating remained a recurring villain thanks to bad heater cores and leaking intake manifold gaskets. Transmission issues followed: slipping gears, grinding noises, and refusal to shift. The steering would randomly seize up, and the suspension clattered no matter how new the parts were. For a crossover that seemed like a bargain, it drained wallets faster than it filled driveways. The Equinox had style, sure, but when it came to reliability, it completely missed the mark. Number 1. Ford Escape. And finally, the early Ford Escape helped define the modern crossover: practical, family-friendly, and compact. Unfortunately, it also defined early 2000s reliability issues. The V6 AWD versions came with the notorious CD4E transmission, a gearbox so fragile it could lose top gear entirely, forcing the engine to roar at 3,000 RPM just to hold highway speed. Shifting didn't help. It acted the same no matter what you did. Drivers reported terrifying moments when the transmission would suddenly slip into what felt like neutral mid-drive. No warnings, just a flashing overdrive light and pure panic. Even rebuilt units failed again within a few thousand miles, costing over $3,000 each time. Throw in leaky water pumps, unpredictable electrical issues, and a handful of recalls, and the Escape went from class pioneer to financial heartache. It's tragic, really. Underneath all that unreliability was a solid little crossover that just couldn't stay in one piece. But here's the thing, not every crossover from that era shared the same fate. Some quietly stood the test of time, proving that the 2000s weren't just about mechanical heartbreaks. So now the question is, which ones actually got it right? Here are the 5 best old crossovers from the 2000s. Number 5. Lexus RX 300. Let's talk about a true success story, starting with the Lexus RX 300. This was the car that practically invented the luxury crossover category, and 2 decades later, it still has a legendary reputation for reliability. Built on the rock-solid Toyota Camry platform, it packed a silky smooth 3.0-liter V6 with 220 horsepower and impressive low-end torque. 80% of it available at just 1,600 RPM. But what does it mean? Effortless acceleration, silky cruising, and an engine that simply refused to quit. Inside, it was all premium comfort, plush leather seats, real wood trim, and a quiet, refined ride that made long trips feel easy. The RX 300 combined SUV practicality with sedan-like handling, offering nearly 75 cubic feet of cargo space when the rear seats were folded. Owners loved the attention to detail, from the optional touchscreen navigation to heated seats and HID headlights, features that felt futuristic back then. Maintenance costs were low, and many examples have easily crossed 200,000 miles with minimal drama. Just skip the 2000 model's weak transmission, and you've got yourself one of the most dependable and elegant crossovers of its time. Number 4. Honda CR-V. When people talk about cars that just keep going, the second-generation Honda CR-V is usually near the top of the list. This was the model that cemented the CR-V's reputation as one of the most reliable and practical crossovers ever made. Powered by Honda's trusty 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine, it may not have been a speed demon with its 156 horsepower, but it was smooth, efficient, and capable of lasting 500,000 miles if maintained properly. The VTEC system loved clean oil, and as long as owners stayed on top of changes, these engines were nearly unbreakable. The 2006 model in particular scored big 82 out of 100 on JD Power and a solid 4.5 out of 5 reliability rating on RepairPal. It was also incredibly safe, earning top honors from IIHS and helping owners enjoy lower insurance premiums. With its comfortable ride, roomy cabin, and excellent visibility, the CR-V was the perfect do-it-all crossover for families and commuters alike. And with fuel economy of around 26 miles per gallon combined and maintenance costs averaging just $368 a year, it was affordable to own too. Sure, early models had a few airbag recalls, but the 2006 version refined everything. Simple, reliable, and efficient, just like a Honda should be. Number 3. Toyota 4Runner. Now, if the CR-V was the sensible family choice, the Toyota 4Runner was the one built to take a beating and come back for more. This SUV was nearly indestructible. The 2001 and 2008 model years, in particular, stood out for their bulletproof engineering. Underneath, it used a full body-on-frame chassis, the same rugged foundation as the Land Cruiser Prado and Tacoma. You could choose between a rock-solid 4.0-liter V6 or a torque-heavy 4.7-liter V8 borrowed from the Tundra. These engines were known for lasting 300,000 miles and beyond with little more than basic maintenance. The 4Runner balanced old-school toughness with surprising comfort, a smooth coil spring suspension, a quiet cabin, and a refined interior. It could pull over 5,000 pounds, handle serious off-road trails, and still feel civilized in the suburbs. The 2008 version scored 87 out of 100 for reliability with just 17 recorded complaints, almost unheard of for a midsize SUV. Avoid the rust-prone 2003 to 2005 models, and you'll have one of the toughest SUVs ever built. Number 2. Subaru Forester. If you wanted all-weather confidence and long-lasting reliability wrapped in a compact, no-nonsense package, the 2008 Subaru Forester was the one to get. This was the final year before Subaru redesigned it, and many fans still consider it the best of the bunch. With its naturally aspirated 2.5-liter flat-4 producing 173 horsepower, it offered simple mechanicals that just worked. Regular oil changes kept the engine healthy and head gasket issues at bay, something earlier Subaru struggled with. The XT trim even gave enthusiasts a turbocharged punch at 224 horsepower, paired with standard all-wheel drive and a close-ratio manual gearbox that made it surprisingly quick. The low-slung Boxer engine gave the Forester a stable, planted feel, while its symmetrical AWD system made it unstoppable in rain, snow, or gravel. Inside, it was practical. Plenty of space, solid visibility, and nearly 68 cubic feet of cargo room with the seats down. Fuel economy hovered around 26 miles per gallon highway, and annual repair costs were modest at about $500. With only 4 official complaints logged for the year, the 2008 Forester remains a shining example of Subaru dependability done right. Number 1. Lexus GX470. Finally, the king of the 2000s crossovers, the Lexus GX470. This was a luxury SUV that could survive an apocalypse. Built on the same rugged frame as the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, it combined genuine off-road strength with Lexus-level comfort. Under the hood, the legendary 4.7-liter V8 delivered 263 horsepower and smooth, effortless torque, the kind of engine that just runs forever. With advanced features like kinetic dynamic suspension system, downhill assist control, and 8.3 inches of ground clearance, the GX could tackle rocky trails as easily as city streets. Inside, it was pure class, buttery leather seats, real wood trim, a Mark Levinson sound system, and space for 8 passengers. Despite being body-on-frame, it rode like a luxury sedan, quiet, controlled, and endlessly comfortable. J.D. Power gave it an incredible 89 out of 100 reliability rating with just 3 complaints. Even today, many GX470s are still running strong well past 200,000 miles, proving that when Toyota builds a luxury SUV, they build it to last. At around $8,800 used, it's one of the smartest buys from the entire 2000s era. Which of these crossovers do you think deserved their spot on the list? Did we miss one that you've owned or loved? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories. And if you're into deep dives like this, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.